Hey friends, my name's Gabrielle. Welcome to FrumiousReads. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't live in America or just have not been paying attention in general, today is Super Bowl Sunday, and sorry but not sorry, I am really going for the Broncos. Just wanted to make this quick video to say yes, the Broncos won, so I'm excited, and I just had to put this in here because I'm editing and realized that I needed to. Now that we've gotten the football fanatic in me out of the way, let's move on to the Week 5 wrap-up. This week I read In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, Bossy Pants by Tina Fey, Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, Matched by Ali Condi, The Day the Fall Stood Still by Kathy Buchanan, 2 A.M. at the Cat's Pajamas by Marie Helen Bertino, and The Kitchen God's Wife by Amy Tan. So this week I am starting in reverse with the worst book that I read this week, and I am so sorry, Carrie, if you're watching this. I know we were supposed to buddy read together, but I know that you got really busy. This book had so much great potential. So this is the book that I read for my Around the Year in 52 Books challenge group on Goodreads, and it fit the challenge of read a book with a repetitive word in the title, and so In a Dark Dark Wood, obviously dark is repeated. Moving on. Okay, the writing was great at times. The plot was interesting at times. The plot itself wasn't too bad. Like, it was ultimately really interesting. I feel like I was able to get so far because I was listening to the audiobook. The main character, Nora, is invited to a hen weekend, which I'm assuming is relatively close to a bachelorette party, for her old childhood friend from 10 years ago that she hasn't talked to. She isn't sure why she's invited, but she goes anyway just because one of her other friends, Nina, is gonna be there. When she's there, she realizes that her friend Claire, she is actually marrying Nora's old high school sweetheart named James. Now, Nora has not talked to James in 10 years. The book itself is told in flashbacks from Nora as she's in the hospital trying to figure out what happened during this weekend. Let's talk about Nora. I can't see having a grown woman still pining for a guy that she met when she was 16. Apparently, he wronged her, and just, it never tells us what exactly he did until way too far into the novel. Like, it's built up as such a big thing, but yet at the same time, if this is horrible enough that Nora ignored him and cut him out of her life and essentially left her hometown because of what he did, you would expect her not to be as in love with him as he is now. There could be dark, twisted ways that you could go with that, but that wasn't the direction that the book took this, and I can understand why she would be upset that Claire is marrying her high school sweetheart that she was in love with, but I just don't feel like it was a realistic way to portray her love story with James. And then we are introduced to James, and then nothing. Like, there's no chemistry, there's no connection, like nothing happens. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but just his reason for coming back into the story wasn't good. Like, it didn't make sense. Just a lot of the ending didn't make sense and felt rushed. Just Claire herself is a really annoying person to me. I was so annoyed by her because she's described as perfect and beautiful and sweet. I would be so annoyed being around this person who is so perfect and just tries to have her life together and controls everyone else and is manipulative and just would not be a person that I would want to be around. So just, I can't understand why everyone else loved her. And just a lot of the things in general, these characters did not act like they were their age. They act very much like high schoolers still, and I just feel like the characterization as adults wasn't there. And just, there were so many tropes, just so many at one point they brought out an Ouija board and played it, and I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. I just can't. It was too much for me. The writing itself wasn't bad. The content was just not something that I could look past all the cheesiness of. Like, it was just so cheesy. There was melted cheese everywhere in this book. I just could not do it. That is the book that I just had a hard time getting through this week. Let's move into the book that I actually really enjoyed this week. So I love this book. I just had to get In a Dark Dark Wood out of the way because if I didn't say all these things, it would explode out of me. First off, let's look at the cover, because the cover itself is like 5-star words. Essentially, The Kitchen God's Wife is about a Chinese family with 2 different generations. One, the mother Winnie and the daughter Pearl. Both Pearl and Winnie are keeping secrets from each other. It's Pearl's Aunt Helen that actually threatens to expose their secrets to each other if they don't tell each other themselves. It kind of goes through Winnie telling her daughter basically how she ended up coming to America and her life story that Pearl never knew about. So it starts off in Pearl's point of view, and it also jumps back to Pearl's point of view at the ending, but primarily it is told by Winnie. You know, usually with point of view jumps, it can get kind of confusing and either you become attached to one character over the other. For this one, I thought it was really well done because when Winnie was was telling her point of view, it read as a conversation. Like, there were parts that she would obviously expand the story, and there was parts where you were reading what was happening, but then there would be parts where you would just be pulled back to the fact that she's having this as a conversation with her daughter, because she would reference like reactions that her daughter had, or just kind of explain things like, oh, you look confused, but this is how it was then. And I just thought that it was really well done. It's a really good book, and Amy Tan apparently came up with this story over eating Chinese food with her friends, and so I really recommend you guys pick it up. The next book that I have is the good book of the week, is 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas, and this book is actually one that I was sent from blogging for books. 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas essentially jumps from a bunch of different characters. This is the part that I loved about this book, and then also the part that I didn't like about this book, and that was the fact that it had so many different perspectives of characters. Like, I love the different characters, I loved getting to read from them, I loved getting to know them as they continued in the plot. But what I just said about the Kitchen God's Wife, about how they were really smooth in the switching in perspective, I feel like this was a book that was not as smooth with that. So ultimately, I think that was my biggest problem and why it wasn't my favorite book of the week. But that is my week 5 wrap up. The challenge that I chose for the Around the Year 52 Books Goodreads group: read a book by an author who writes under a different name. The book that I chose is The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, also known as J.K. Rowling. This is her pen name that she writes under sometimes. I'm really excited to read this book because I haven't actually read any works of hers that haven't been Harry Potter related. If this video is late, it is because I am watching the Super Bowl. I am such a huge sports person that I work at a gym. I mean, really, you guys can't blame me that much. This isn't that big of a secret. That is all that I have for you guys for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay. Bye. We spent a couple days in Kathmandu. We ended up spending about 10 days trekking through these villages, and it was exhausting and crazy, and the trip itself was absolutely insane.